people just sort of standing around talking. And then I would say most of the budget was towards the stop motion part, and then maybe sort of certain models, scaled models to show the giant behemoth's head coming out of the water, so on and so forth. And
welcome to Go Kaiju Show, where we have a healthy obsession with kaiju, and we are also the longest running kaiju podcast in history at this point. I am your co-host, Kenton. With me is your other co-host,
Jason. How's it going, peeps?
And so we are covering 1958's The Giant Behemoth today. I can't remember, Jason. I think we did a commentary, and the reason why I bring this up is because the two movies are very similar to one another. Did we? I swear at one point we did like a commentary on The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
I know we've done something. I could have sworn it was just not too terribly long ago, but it's like my brain just can't go that far into our history. I would have to take a look at it one of these times or something of the sort. I wish we would have done that before we started doing the episode here, but I would say it's at least one of the two.
Okay, yeah,
and then just to correct you, it's 1959, not 1958 for a giant behemoth.
I saw 58 on the back of the cover.
Well, they got it wrong.
But this was an official Warner Brothers DVD. It's not some sort of black
Warner Brothers
version.
is wrong.
Where'd you get 59 from?
According to the Wikipedia.
There you go. There's your problem. Yeah. There's your problem right there is Wikipedia. Because when I went through ChatGPT yesterday, it was fine. Here we are. We're fighting already. We haven't even started. So, yeah, we're going to do Giant Behemoth today. I'm going to say it's 1958. So, before we get going, Jason, the usual.
Yeah, if you see a subscribe button down below or above, wherever you're watching us from, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Smash the like button. And if you're listening to us audio-wise, make sure to give us a 5-star rating as well as comments, whatever, either on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to us from. And you can find both video and audio versions of our episodes right on our own website at gogokaijushow.com.
All right, so The Giant Behemoth. This was one of Willis O'Brien's last films that he worked on. I don't know how hands-on he was with this project, considering there are, I think, 2 or 3 other guys that are also given credit for effects work on here. So, like I said at the top of the show, this movie is very much is very similar to the. I almost said The Giant Behemoth. This movie is almost. It is very similar to The Giant Behemoth. It is
because it's the exact same thing.
Because it is The Giant Behemoth. It's very similar to 1953's The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, who was also directed by
this guy that directed this movie.
Who is?
Eugene Laurie.
There you go. What a coincidence. He made the same damn movie twice within a span of like 5 years.
I think it's just like the Paul Gassery thing.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's well, and here's the thing. Because you and I almost got into this and almost wasted some of our time by not having it recorded, where we were talking a little bit about this before we started the show, where you had said that, a lot of this movie, Eugene Lowry told his crew for this film to recycle a lot of what they did with Beast from 20,000 Fathoms in terms of the story. There, I think, is very much a very good reason for that. And that is, if you're paying attention to the beginning of this movie, the answer is right there in your face when it says Allied Artists Presents. Now, for those who are not familiar with sort of, kind of the 50s, late 40s throughout the 50s studio era history, studios like Allied Artists are subsidiary studios of larger studios. So Allied Artists was one of those subsidiary studios of Warner Brothers back in the day. Now, the reason why that is because, hey, after World War II, the United States had a huge economic boom because a lot of European countries owed us money through Lend-Lease Act. And then there just was also a lot of economic growth in the country. The soldiers came back. There was more construction going on, which meant more money flowing in. The creation of the middle class really became a big thing throughout the 50s. So there was a ton of money during the 50s. For those of us who are around during the 90s, think of it as something similar to the 90s, where there was just a huge economic boom during that decade. So what ended up happening with the studios here was that Warner Brothers was like, look, there's all this money and stuff. We could do more projects. However, we as a studio, like Warner Brothers proper, can't necessarily do that. Plus, we got this new demographic coming up. Eventually, the baby boomers are being born and are coming along. And so they're saying, okay, well, there was this big popularity in UFO/science fiction that came about in the late 40s due to the whole Roswell incident. And so science fiction kind of became a big thing. And then because of the Cold War starting up and having 2 bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki towards the end of the war, obviously, not just war movies, but also science fiction movies dedicated to radioactivity and the consequences of using atomic weapons and just using radioactivity in general became a big genre or subgenre within, I don't know, science fiction or just in film in general. So what studios like Warner Brothers did is they're saying, let's create smaller studios that create movies that are cheaper for us to finance, but also have quicker production periods. So what ended up happening with a lot of these studios was many sci-fi pictures, not all of them, but many of them got shifted over to these smaller studios, like Allied Artists. As a result, films like The Giant Behemoth ended up having a smaller budget than something like Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Because if I remember correctly, that film, I think, was a Warner Brothers proper production, if I remember that correctly. So a film like The Giant Behemoth did not get the same budget and production length and just overall talent like a Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. The result, as you can tell, is shown right there in the movie. To sort of preview my thoughts, but also this is the reality of the production and just the end result of what The Giant Behemoth is a movie that just isn't quite as good as Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and is, in by and large, just in a very broad sense, a carbon copy.
Yeah. I would like to interject on this one is that the more when you were talking about this, the more it sort of kind of came to my mind is that you can probably say with some of these smaller studios, they could be almost like today's version of the Asylum films in a way.
In some way.
But with kind of the official backing of the main major studios that sort of created these. And then when I say as far as the Asylum, they tend to usually make some of these mockumentary films to kind of almost be sort of similar to what the official productions were, but then with smaller budgets. This to me is sort of like that, where it's like, with smaller production, kind of a carbon copy of one of the films that was recently or possibly made a few so years beforehand. Sometimes maybe afterwards or something of the sort. But then with this one here, you have some backings with major studios and maybe with some better known people. Sometimes Asylum can sort of do that with bigger names and all that, but
usually guys or actors that have their careers are kind of done.
Yeah. And with Asylum Studios, they're not particularly known for being great films and cheaper effects and all that. And it sort of lines up with how the Giant Behemoth is.
Yeah, the difference I would say, between like your example of Asylum and like a studio like Allied Artists is other than having some financial backing from a major studio and maybe using some better talent on occasion for a production. The biggest advantage a studio like Allied Artists had by being a subsidiary of a studio like Warner Brothers was that this film got distributed by Warner Brothers. And of course, Warner Brothers, obviously being the bigger studio, a film like Giant Behemoth, even though it was cheaper and was made quicker, got better distribution than a film like Asylum would.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was getting at. Is like it's sort of the same thing. However, they had, like with Allied, they had at least an official backing with a bigger studio.
Yeah, and I find all of this very interesting just simply because I myself, and I think I've said it many times on this podcast before, I'm a huge fan of classic science fiction / monster films of the like 40s, 50s, and 60s. And so I have read some books on it, not entirely all the way through, but I have read some books where they kind of touch upon some of this stuff, but also just watching a lot of these old movies, I've realized, well, I've never heard of this studio before. And so sometimes I'll look it up or I'll read about it in one of the books that I'll read. And it's like, oh, well, that's why there's an Allied Artist and why at some point down the road, like either in the late 60s, like anywhere from about as early as the early 60s to no later than the early 70s, a lot of these studios ended up kind of dying off because, well, the economy began to go down a little bit. So, yeah, like if you're into that sort of thing, if you're interested in not just like the history of like classic science fiction and monster films, but also kind of like how Hollywood studios were post World War II. Books like Keep Watching the Skies, it's a 2-volume set, is like a good thing to pick up. It's like a ginormous encyclopedia of films that were produced from like the end of World War II up to the early 60s, I want to say, perhaps. I think that one covers more of the 50s than it does anything else. But there are good sections at the beginning of those books where it kind of tells about the history of like how all of this got jump started. So let's get into the Giant Behemoth as well. If you've seen Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, this is very similar to that. The synopsis of Giant Behemoth, I think, is a little bit simpler in that you get this marine biologist, Steve Carnes, played, I forget the actor's name.
Gene Evans, I think.
I thought it was Gene, but I wasn't sure. Because that's the director's name. I'm like, Eugene and Gene are like the same thing. Basically, he's a marine biologist. He's talking about these theories about radioactivity at the start of the movie. Then what ends up happening is weird occurrences are happening in various parts around England because this movie takes place mostly in England. And eventually what happens after our main character, Dr. Stephen Carnes, and then his English sidekick, Professor Bickford, end up realizing there's a giant monster, a behemoth, they call it. And it eventually shows up in London, attacks, and they destroy it with a radioactive torpedo at the end.
Yeah.
So that is basically the film. I mean, seriously, that's what it is. I mean, it's even simpler than Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, you could more or less succinct its plot to something similar, but there's just a bit more to that particular film.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the Giant Behemoth here, yeah, you can definitely tell with the budget and everything is that there's a lot of stuff and like a lot of people just sort of standing around talking. And then I would say most of the budget was towards the stop motion part, and then maybe sort of certain models, scaled models to show the giant behemoth's head coming out of the water, so on and so forth. And yeah, I would say it's kind of a mundane, boring, kind of an underwhelmed sort of film. And with a lot of the people here, it's like they sort of act kind of in a stoic, robotic, especially when they destroy the behemoth. You would think that they'd be all excited and all that. So I was like, oh, let's go home.
Yeah, I had seen this film 3 or 4 times before the viewing that I did for this particular podcast. And like you said, like my memory of it was that, yeah, it wasn't quite as good as Beasts from 20,000 Fathoms, but I thought it was a respectable effort. And then after watching it to prepare for this podcast, I realized, wow, this is actually not that good. And there's a reason why I don't watch the movie that often. And this movie has a lot of issues with it. And I am going to I'm going to help the movie out by saying that it's budgetary reasons. It didn't have the budget, and as a result, they weren't able to necessarily have the production time, and maybe just in general have the production quality that they would have preferred for something like this.
Yeah, and I forget what I was going to say. Oh, one little factoid on this is that, as far as I can remember, I don't ever believe in seeing the entire movie ever. I've only seen trailer snippets of this film, and I thought it would have been like just how it looked. I thought it was going to be like a really great movie. Just, showing most of the trailers just showing the stop motion.
They got
part.
you. They got you drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and I know you had this one VHS tape many years ago where they were showing like all these like monster or like
dinosaur
creatures
trailers.
And all that. Where I think it had the last dinosaur trailer, giant behemoth, Lost World, etc. And it kind of showed all these snippets. And I remember watching that, as well as things on this online from time to time. And I thought it probably would have been really good. Well, nope.
This film has a main character that likes to shake hands often. I do not. Even his sidekick, Professor Bickford, even brought that up earlier in the movie. He's like, oh, you like to shake hands. I don't think in a movie I've ever seen a singular character shake hands as often as Professor Carnes does in this film.
And the one thing, too, when it comes to his character, when they're in like a surgical lab or something where they were dissecting one of the fish and all that, they have this fish in a Ziploc bag or what have you. He has like gloves or I don't know, it's like some kind of plastic kind of glove on him.
Vinyl.
Something like that, yeah. You would think that he would still have it on. Nope, he just touches the fish with his own bare hands while surgically like dissecting a fish where it has radioactive like things about this large, something like that, growing inside.
I noticed that too.
You would think
that was something I wanted to talk about.
You would think that the people in that surgical room would at least have some kind of hazmat suit on when touching stuff.
Not necessarily hazmat, but at bare minimum, just protective handwear. Because at first I didn't know exactly what he was doing, but then when he did say what he was cutting them up to look for, I'm like, why are you doing this with your bare hands? And then once they found one, then he puts the stupid gloves on. I'm like, motherfucker, you're already radioactive. Like, I would get screened for cancer right away if they were able to do that back then. Like, I'm like, it's too late, dude. You're contaminated.
Or like just get turned into stone like the other people do later on in the movie. I don't even know if it was stone. I don't know if it looked like a pile of shit or.
I want to say, like, at first I thought it was like one of the fish's organs, but then the way it looked, I'm like, that's too big. So I was wondering if it was like a cancerous, like, mass that was already forming in that fish.
Something like that. Because when they show the X-ray sheet on the thing, it sort of, I would say, kind of drives towards that as far as like kind of a cancerous mass.
And the guy who plays a psychic, Professor Bickford, I don't know the actor's name, but can I just say this?
He's got like a weird face.
If you love ASMR, he's got the perfect voice for it. And can I also say that when it comes to the Brits, I have a hell of a time understanding what they're saying in a lot of movies because of how they talk most of the time. Because they flappity flap their lips a certain way a lot of times, and it's hard for me to like pick up. Like I even turned the volume up really high on my TV at one point. I'm like, what is this dude even saying? And then I realized I was watching the Allied Artist Monster movie. I'm like, fuck, it doesn't matter anyway. Like,
but yeah, it's just really boring and underwhelming overall. It's like the only times you'll see the behemoth itself. I mean, you can say it's sort of pre-Jaws in a way where they kind of tease you a little bit of the monster from time to time during the film, and then they kind of back off until towards the very end, which I think is maybe the last 18 or so minutes of the film.
From the moment we first see the behemoth in the harbor of the Thames to the ending of the film, it's 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then as far as the behemoth itself, you can say two different versions. One is pretty much just see the head just coming out of the water. As far as that version, I think it's not too terribly bad. But I know from one of the drawings and stuff where they were showing it, like it's exactly like the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, like one of the drawings that they have there. But then you compare that with the giant behemoth, just a sec here. It's like his neck is much longer compared to the drawing version of the like the 20,000 Fathoms beast version. It's like,
I didn't verify this, but I am 100% confident when I say that drawing that they used is the exact drawing that they used to identify the Rhedosaurus in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Like I said, I didn't verify, but I am 100% confident they recycled that drawing.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it is, because I mean, it's like, what else are you going to do? Are you going to pay someone like part of your budget to have someone like, were they asking too much or something? And then that's why you kind of sort of resort to the Rhedosaurus drawing of the creature, which, yeah. And then as far, I would say, besides the head version of the behemoth, I would say the scale version, like scale models and stuff, weren't too terribly bad, I would say. And then the stop motion version of the behemoth, I would say moderately good, but it should have been smoothed out more. It doesn't, it's like you can definitely tell the articulations and stuff. It just didn't quite fit well and didn't quite make things look believable in a way.
Well, and I didn't find a ton of information on the behind the scenes production of this, but from what I read, and I don't know how accurate this is, the special effects budget for this was $20,000, which I don't know, to me, even for the time, seems decent. considering you have the guy who's behind King Kong involved with this, I don't know though. Like, I think, some of that may have been the salaries of some of these guys, but even then, that's still pretty small because not only does it limit you in terms of like material that you need to construct like armatures and like the models and stuff, but also again, production time. What kind of, because I'm 100% positive of this, they had a very strict production time. And so all of that comes into play because stop motion is very tedious and time consuming. Like on one of the Ray Harryhausen documentaries, and I have to go back and revisit it because it's been a while, he mentions somewhere in that documentary where it could take you a whole day to produce several seconds worth of like stop motion, like photography.
Yeah. And it definitely shows within this movie because you can see at least 2 times where they reuse some of the same motion.
It's more than that.
The behemoth, like for instance, you kind of see one scene where he's sort of swaying his head up close, and then they'll go back to one scene, and then the next scene it'll show the exact same thing. So you can tell that it goes up to a certain amount, trying to reuse the exact same thing over and over again as much as possible, because you know that they didn't really do a whole lot because they knew that the stop motion stuff takes an enormous amount of time.
The initial attack sequence of when Behemoth actually comes up on land, the car smash scene, they use that 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear as day that it's the same shot. And like you said, the up close shots of its head just like weaving back and forth. There's 2, maybe 3 shots where they do like one up close and at least one that's far away where like it comes up, it roars, and then it kind of like does this with its neck and roars again. They use that shot at least twice. Like they recycled a lot of those initial shots during its first landfall attack. And then later on, when it's nighttime, I don't think they reused anything from that point forward because the rest of that was all like original for those particular scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when he emits the radiation, then turns a lot of people into, I don't know, probably stone or something of the sort.
It's not stone. It's like what I would call like radioactive burns.
Something like that. Yeah. You can definitely tell as far as it being a difference between a painting and an actual person.
I think what they did is they took the film frame and I don't know if this is the correct term, but inverted the colors. It's like looking at actual like picture photography film. It has kind of that, I don't know, for lack of a better term, coloring to it.
Well, not only just sort of freezing the frame to kind of make people look like stone or whatever it is, radioactive burn, that they'll tend to, paint over and kind of make it look like what they wanted to.
Did you notice during its first attack sequence on that ferry, it is sort of a quick, it's there and you miss it type of shot. But the moment where it actually like upends the ferry, you could tell there is this base float to that behemoth like puppet head that comes up and you see it.
Oh,
you see it for like a brief moment. Like you got to look on the bottom left part of your screen in that moment, because I just happened to like notice it when I watched it, where it pops up and you see the base that little puppet head was sitting on.
Yeah, I never saw that part.
Yeah, it's a quick like blink and you miss type of shot. But
maybe because I was a bit bored and kind of doing other things while watching this movie.
I want to say one of the biggest sins of this film And I can forgive this movie because it is a cheaper made film. And I have seen many of these films where they're cheaply made. And a lot of your good monster sequences don't come until the end of the film. Like, I can forgive that because I've seen enough movies that were cheaply made during this period and do that. The thing that I didn't realize until this viewing, and that I absolutely despise the most about this film, and I don't know if you noticed this, before even the creature showed up in the Thames Harbor, they already were devising a way to stop it and had a solution already made to kill it before it even showed up. Because they talked about, at first they're like, oh, like, what if we blow it up or whatever? And then Professor Carnes says a submarine torpedo with a radium head attached to the tip of the torpedo will kill it. That was all devised before that creature even showed up. The ending to the film was already told to us with still like 35 minutes left to go in the movie. I hate that because typically these films have a formula. Creature shows up, does, one or several attacks or whatever. And then there's kind of this struggle to not only survive, but to figure out ways to stop it. And then eventually, after a while, you do figure out a way to destroy it, either by accident or, by, sheer studying it, or a combination of the two. They figured out how to stop this thing before it even showed up. And I'm like, no, like.
Yeah, again, I probably didn't really pay much attention to that part because, again, it was kind of doing some other stuff. But speaking of kind of the ending part where they were in the submarine and about to ready to explode it, it's kind of funny how Steve Carnes, he was kind of looking at this like little radar thing in the submarine where it kind of had this kind of little curve thing going on the radar. He's like, hold it. And it was like, okay, I'm kind of waiting to see the change of this line in the radar. But then it never did. And he says, fires. Like, how are you supposed to know when to fire or when to actually release this missile to destroy the behemoth? At that point, it's like, I don't get it.
This film's ending also sucks. Like, I am used to many films ending like abruptly as soon as the issue is taken care of.
Yeah, they sort of quote celebrate.
They really don't.
Mainly just stand around. It's like, oh hey, we'll get you up. Oh, by the way, good job.
Well, yeah, like they blow it up, and Professor Carnes and the submarine pilot don't even really celebrate themselves. So they blow it up. You see like the puppet come up out of the water, which I don't think it would really do if it happened, but whatever. And then it goes under. That's it. Like, we don't see the body fall or whatever. Like, they shoot it. We see an explosion effect. Then their submarine comes back up. They get up. And like, I guess Carnes like broke a forearm bone or something. Bickford's like, oh, hey, like, let me take care of that. Then the next scene is him and Bickford in a car. They turn on the radio and they're saying giant masses of fish are washing up on the shores of the United States from Maine down to Florida. They look at each other and they realize, hey, there's a second one of these out there. And then the movie ends. Like, this all happens within a span of about 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah. I was telling myself that they were trying to set up for another sequel for this, but it's like, look how that ended.
Well, I bet if you were to talk to the people involved with this, I think realistically they knew there was never going to be a follow-up to this. I'm almost willing to bet that. I think they just wanted to end it on just a different note, perhaps. but this movie is definitely different. Like,
different and boring.
yeah,
Just by thinking about it right now is.
And one thing I will give the movie credit for, and I'm glad they did not do this, because a lot of these movies during that time, usually, not always, but usually would have a military man as the lead. But not only that, usually a female co-star that is at some point, the damsel in distress and the love interest. And I'm like, I'm glad they didn't do that with this thing. Like, it is straight to the point. I will give the movie that. But then it lingers because it tries to build up some suspense. But the problem is that we, the audience, knows exactly what's going on. We're just sitting around with our thumbs up our butts, waiting for our characters to catch up to where we already know what is going on. So it's just like, this movie's 90 minutes. This movie didn't need to be that long. This movie should have been 70, 75 minutes tops.
Well, it says running time 71 minutes.
See, my DVD said 90. It did. Yeah, it said 90.
Well, it was like, on my Blu-ray, it said around an hour and 19 minutes. But I'm guessing that's with like all the, the warnings and all that.
You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, it is like an hour 20, because I remember hitting the timestamp several times to kind of figure out, okay, when does the monster show up, etc. I do remember it saying like hour 19. So yeah, it's like an hour 20. That's still too long, actually, the more I think about it. Because the way they approach the story to this, like we both have said, it's preposterous. It lingers. They figure out how to destroy the damn thing before we even actually see it. The creature itself doesn't show up until the 50-minute mark. It's the start of its big rampage on land doesn't start until the 1 hour mark. And like, there are elements from an aesthetic standpoint and from a story standpoint that I sort of like in the first half-ish hour of this movie. But then kind of once you get past that 30-minute mark, which is usually kind of around the end of your first act, things should pick up a little bit more. But this movie's like, nope, we're going to keep it in act 1 for like another 10, 15 minutes. And then we'll get into a quick act 2. Then we'll have sort of a prolonged act 3. Like your act 2, I don't know. Like, it's just,
to me, it's sort of, like I said, it's pretty much like the Paul Gassery in Galgameth sort of thing, where you had the same exact guy that directed Paul Gassery make Galgameth on this. However, this time around, instead of the first movie being better than its carbon copy, like in Beast from 20,000, like, what was it? Here, let me rethink this. Instead of having the original being
inferior,
not inferior compared to the carbon copy, like in Paul Gassery and Galgameth, it's sort of the inversion.
Well, yeah, and I would say what happened here is usually more of the norm than anything else, because a lot of people, well, the original's always the best. Because they've had how many solo Godzilla films, and there are many that still will say the 54 film is better. I'm not one of them, but just to let everyone know, just because this is my podcast, damn it. So,
I mean, it's good, but there's other better ones. Even, well, as time goes on, it's going to get better.
I mean, not always, but in some ways, there's an element of truth to that. But yeah, there just isn't much to this movie. I mean, there just isn't, because most of the movie is spent. We as the audience waiting for the cast of characters on screen to catch up to just figuring out what we already as an audience know.
Yeah, pretty much like I said earlier on this episode, that all it is just stoic robotic people just standing around talking.
Yeah, and I like how the movie opens. And like I said, I think the first anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes is actually pretty decent, if not good.
But
But
then
then
I would
after
say it starts
that,
to drag out.
yeah, like I said, I think this movie has a weird pacing issue because I swear Act One probably lasts 10 to 15 minutes longer than it should. Then they have a real tiny second act and then the third act. But even then, that third act has elements of a second act in order to linger because maybe they're trying to extend the movie on purpose to give it a solo theatrical release because my understanding was, unlike other films of the period, this was not a double bill because usually, not always, but films that are usually double bill tend to be anywhere from like an hour to an hour 10-ish in length.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just beyond that. So maybe they're just like, hey, let's figure out a way to make this thing a tad longer. I don't know. Like, I'm blowing smoke up my butt, but
Probably.
probably.
Who knows? But yeah, just even talking about it is just making me bored.
There just isn't much to it. I mean, it's just, to me, like, I feel for Willis O'Brien because that guy post King Kong, his career unfortunately like got dunked on pretty hard, pretty quick. And I don't want to. First of all, I don't have all the information that I used to have at one point, so I would need time. But my understanding was like he was the original like idea man behind King Kong versus Frankenstein's monster, where Frankenstein's monster was built out of various animals, which then ended up being King Kong versus Godzilla. And O'Brien never got actual credit or money or anything off of that idea. And then like he had a very torturous, depressing ending to his career and his life. And I don't blame him at all for the shortcomings of this film because, again, like even Harryhausen said, when you are a stop motion special effects artist, if you want to create something good, you not only need the budget, but you more than anything else, you need the time to do this work. And if you aren't given the time, yeah, what you create is going to look shitty. Because if you're given 2 days to create 10 minutes worth of creature shots, you're not going to get it done. So you have to cut a lot of corners and the end result's going to be shitty work.
Yeah. With this film, like you said, it felt like there was quite a bit of filler and all that stuff. You would think that this film should have just ultimately in the end, it should have been a short film at best.
It would have been better served even at an hour, because if you cut it down to an hour and double build this thing with whatever, like, because like I said, once the creature shows up in the Thames, there's a half hour left in the movie. That would have been a fast. This movie, I think, would have been better received, not just then, but even now, because like creature stuff happens so early. Even though, yeah, they recycle a ton of shots in its initial attack on land. A lot of people, I think, would be a little bit more forgiving of that because it's like, hey, it's an hour. The creature shows up after 30 minutes, like, you know, because again, like we say with a lot of these films, we come here for the creature and its rampage and any fights these creatures may have with each other. That's what we're here for.
And then with the rampage and everything, there's really not much there. It's barely there's like the only thing that he does is that you see on screen, him actually doing it is tipping over that ferry boat. And then I didn't call for you, Siri. Talking to my phone here. And then the other thing is that pushing a corner part of a building over onto people. That was about it. That you see him
and
actually
then
doing things.
Stomped on a bridge, which he fell back in, and then conveniently, of course, just so our heroes can get into their submarine and kill them with their radium torpedo. Let's get into final thoughts.
And then I would say, lastly, for the UK, just stick with Gorgo.
Yeah, you kick us off with final thoughts and a rating.
Yeah, again, it's a movie. It's almost a carbon copy of Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. It's sort of like an asylum version of like a mockumentary film. Here, it definitely shows with the amount of budget it has. According from what I've seen, it was about $750,000 back then. And
Let me do some inflation calculation here.
And with the actors in here, I can sort of see that they were trying to do their best, but whoever was directing the cast for this movie didn't quite do the good job here with, because the end product of how the cast portrayed some of these characters and stuff, it was, they kind of went off on a stoic, robotic, and kind of a monotoned acting here, which I think kind of adds to the boredom, along with really stretching the story here. Definitely shows with people just standing around talking to one another back and forth, and you're kind of looking at your watch, or like me, just kind of doing other things while the movie's playing in the background here. And then all of a sudden, you'll maybe get some teases here and there, the monster kind of like in Jaws. But then in the last 18 or so minutes, you'll finally see the behemoth coming out of the water and then attacking people on the ferry boat, and then as well as going into London, maybe stomping on cars.
One car.
One, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe pushing one little corner of a building and then stopping on the bridge. That's about it. And yeah, it's a boring and underwhelming movie. And with that, I'm going to give Giant Behemoth a D.
Oh, wow. I thought I was going to be the punk ass bitch of the of the episode. But you're making me sort of rethink this. And to be totally honest with you, I have not really decided yet what grade. I kind of have a range that I've been thinking, but I haven't decided yet. So I'm going to, like this movie, put a lot of filler in my final thoughts, and then hopefully I'll come to a grade. But by the way, as far as what its budget today would be the equivalent to, would be approximately 8.3 million. So that's pretty low.
I would say that'd be sort of kind of a good amount for one of those movies that would end up being an Oscar award winning movie. I'm not saying that this is Oscar worthy.
What are you trying to say? You just gave the movie a D.
I'm just saying it's sort of kind of the equivalent amount of money for films that would sort of end up as an Oscar quality type of movie.
Okay, with that. Okay.
Yes, just get on to your review.
Like I said, kind of in the early stages of our discussion here, I had seen this movie 3 or 4 times before, and my memories of it were that, yes, it was not as good as Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, but I thought it was still good enough that it was a respectable, sort of, I, for lack of a better term, carbon copy of that same film. After watching this and paying closer attention and having seen the movie for the first time in anywhere from like 2 to 3 years, I realized this is not even a respectable carbon copy of a film, of a film that was made previously. Giant Behemoth is a bore, as both of us And more specifically, Jason has outright said throughout the course of this discussion. And I think that's why he gave the movie a D, because I think he absolutely fucking hates this film.
Not compared to Shin Kamen Rider.
We just discussed that like 2 minutes ago. Don't remind me. This film is better than that. I will say that. If we're comparing these two films, Giant Behemoth is an A++.
Yes.
But anyways, Giant Behemoth is a bore of a film. It's a film, though, that I think sort of the first 20 to 30 minutes is interesting. I think it sets up, like most films of this type during this period, is normal. You know, it kicks things off in a way that, hey, there's this mystery and stuff, even though, yes, with a lot of these films of the time period, we, the audience, knows what's coming, but we're waiting for the characters to catch up. This film not only starts off quicker in that regard, it's one of those few films where it just, boom, you know, throws you right into kind of what we're getting at. But the problem is that for whatever reason, the filmmakers here decided to really pad it out. That's something that most other films from this genre at that time typically did not do. With that being said, the actors are fine. Oh, one thing I wanted to discuss that we didn't was the paleontologist dude. When they come to him asking him about the creature, the Paleosaurus, and he's this weird fucker.
I know.
He has these weird eyes.
Well, in the way he kind of moves his lips in a way.
He's like, I was always waiting for this to happen. I knew the creatures were alive. And like he goes off from being this respectable paleontologist to this conspiracy motherfucker. Like he's this
like a bug-eyed weirdo.
Like all of a sudden you realize this guy, okay, respectable, normal paleontologist too. Oh shit, this guy is on something, because this guy all of a sudden now has private thoughts that are coming out into the public that should not be coming out to the public. And this guy ends up dying in search of the Paleosaurus. And I'm like, this is hilarious, because this guy is what this movie needs. Like he perks up the movie for about 5 or 10 minutes before he gets his ass killed. And like, he just is a weird ass bitch. I mean, like you were talking about, not only his eyes, but the way he moves his lips and the way he talks. And he's just like, oh yeah, like the dinosaurs, I like studying them. And then they're like, no, this dinosaur is alive. And he's like, I always knew they were alive. I've been waiting for this day. And you're like, dude, like, what'd you do to the real paleontologist? Like, you're some conspiracy fuck.
No,
like that's what you are.
No,
like
actually, it's the reptilians.
Like, this is that. I don't think I've ever seen this happen in a movie before, where you get a respectable figure and then unless it's the villain, of course, but like all of a sudden he snaps and he's like he was on. This was real. I knew. It's like he was under the MK Ultra mind control all this time. It was the weirdest shit I have seen in a movie from this time period. I'm like, this is hilarious, but it's also disturbing and bad at the same time. Like, it just, I love the paleontologist just because it fucks up the movie so much in that period. I'm just like, this weird ass bitch just shows up and like entertains the movie. Like, it gives that movie just a little bit more pep for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then he's dead. It's just like, you know. But anyways, okay. I wanted to talk about that dude, and we totally forgot about it. Okay, back to my final thoughts. Yes. This movie drags, and it pisses me off to no end that they already have it figured out as far as how they're going to combat and ultimately defeat this creature before it even actually shows up and gives us any sort of entertaining destruction scenes. That pisses me off. And then, as we talked about earlier, the fact that the destruction scenes are recycled footage several times over, at least during the initial on-land attack sequence, it's frustrating. It's obvious as day. as far as what's going on. I do not blame Willis O'Brien or the effects crew for this because, again, limited budget, and I'm sure they hardly had any time to really work on this thing. It's frustrating. We just don't get enough of the behemoth. The puppet is passable, but not good. A quick scene where you see like the little floaty that it's on when it's attacking the ferry and its initial sequence when it comes into London. It's frustrating. And for the first time in my 4 or 5 viewings of this film, I was frustrated by the film. And I think now that I think about it, it's because those previous viewings, I did not pay as much attention to it as I should have. And I'm sure if I did, I probably would have caught it then. It's like, oh, this isn't that great. It's frustrating. It's a frustrating, boring film.
Yeah.
And I would suggest, since this by and large is a similar film to Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, unless you are like me and you are a hardcore completionist and enthusiast of sci-fi monster movies of yesteryear, I would skip it entirely. I wouldn't even bother with it because Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is better written. Special effects are better, are just better. It's just a better film, period.
Mm-hmm.
You are better off watching that film and that film only than Giant Behemoth. So, yeah, I know. I'm sorry to
I heard the
put you
car.
through that. My cat's agonizing over it. Either that or he's seconding my opinion on Beast.
Or it's like, damn it, don't say it. Don't say it anymore.
With that being said, what grade am I going to give this film? You know what? I kept thinking I was going to give this film a C-. I'm going to give it a D+. I'm giving it a D+ because, like I said, I think the first 20 to 30 minutes are pretty decent, if not good. And a few of the effect sequences later on in the movie, I think, are decent enough. But by and large, this is a dull film. This is a movie that I definitely will not be watching again anytime soon. There seems to be a pattern with that in our recent podcasts here.
There's going to be a long while. If I didn't see it for 39 years, I could probably deal without watching it for another 39 if I
and it saddens me. I mean, I know there was a lot of schlock made during this time and the years that come after, but there's some schlock that, yeah, it's bad effects and stuff, and it's stupid, but it's entertaining. This isn't even entertaining by and large. So, as I've stated for years on this podcast, the biggest sin a movie can commit is not being entertaining. This is pretty close to being what I would call a bore fest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving it a D+.
All right. So that kind of pretty much ends it right there. Thanks for watching another episode of the Kaiju Show. And again, go ahead.
Well, in just a couple weeks, and I almost wore the shirt for it on this podcast. I'm like, no, wait a minute, I need to save that. We're going to cover Jurassic World Rebirth. It will be our first Jurassic Park /World discussion that we have done for this podcast. I am super excited. I bought my tickets about a week ago. I am seeing it the morning of July 2nd. I'm looking forward to this sucker.
I bet you are.
This film, from what I'm hearing, is actually going to be pretty good.
Well,
Gareth Edwards, man, I've been defending that guy for years.
Well, I mean, he's done a pretty good job not only on the 2014 Godzilla film, but he did a damn good job as far as Rogue One Star Wars.
That, although I've heard someone may have come in and like finished direct. I don't know how true that is, but I'm giving him credit for Rogue One, my favorite Star Wars movie thus far. And I don't know if you've seen this movie, The Creator.
Yeah, that one too. Although I have not seen that one, I've seen the trailers and
It's
and all that
good.
stuff.
It's good.
But
That had oh gosh, I just had to remember what the budget was. But it was low. It's lower than Rebirth. The effects look terrific. The story is like, it's a good film.
to me, when I saw the trailers for that one, it sort of reminded me a little bit of Oblivion in a way, with kind of like the dystopian and all that sort of stuff. But anyways, if you see a subscribe button down below or above wherever you're watching us from, YouTube, Rumble, whichever, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Smash the like button. And if you're listening to the audio versions of our episodes on Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, make sure to give us a 5-star rating. And you can also find both video and audio versions of our episodes on our own website at gogokaijushow.com.
Can I just say too, like, even if you don't listen to us that often because you hate us or find us annoying or whatever, we're not asking for much from everybody. We're just asking for subscriptions and like 5-star reviews where possible. We don't ask for money. There are so many podcasts out there, even YouTube type podcasts, where people have advertisements and or are asking for money. We don't do that. Everything, we don't even have a Patreon. We don't even have a donation button or anything. We don't ask a single penny from you guys or anybody else.
And I think we've mentioned about this before in the past, I'm certain of it, is that we pretty much started this podcast off mainly just as a hobby in a way.
Yeah. And this is kind of for us, first and foremost. Yes, we're selfish. Get over it. We're as human beings, we're all selfish. But could we make some money off of this? Maybe if we tried harder, sure. But like
maybe a little bit more better equipment or something.
Well, and if we decided like to actually like maybe act more professionally too, but
when you pit us against one another and stuff, that's probably not going to happen. From what we've experienced between one another over the last close to 40 years.
This is a hobby and a simple love for us. And we do this not just for ourselves first and foremost, but for everybody out there. We do it as entertainment first and foremost. And I know there are kaiju podcasts out there that ask you for donations or ask you to subscribe to a Patreon and or have commercials attached to them. I know this because I do listen and pay attention to some other podcasts out there that are within the realm of what we do. We don't do any of that. All we ask is for subscriptions, high ratings where possible, and just word of mouth, like telling your friends about us, because this is a hobby for us. We've been doing this for 15, 16 years now.
15 years, yeah.
We have never asked for money. And if we've gone this long without ever asking for money or done advertisements, I don't think we ever will do it. So that's all we ask from you guys. And it takes you guys no more than a few seconds to do any of that.
I would say.
So please just consider it as our like donation to us. Subscribe and give us thumbs up, 5 stars, etc. That's all we ask.
I would say this entire podcast would not be possible without pretty much me. I'm the one that's kind of showing up.
I was about to say funding for this podcast has been provided by Jason and by Jason as well. Like that's what it is. Like
pretty much this guy's the one is the fat ass lazy one. But he's the only one that's kind of has the most knowledge between the two.
I'm the brain, he's the muscle.
Yeah.
Whichever way the finger. He's the muscle in terms of doing the grunt work. I bring the knowledge. I know I've said this before. I used to be better at the whole knowledge things, but I kind of quit giving a fuck a little while ago. So part of it was just because I had kids and I still have kids. So I'm like, I don't quite have the time that I used to have to like sit there and like read and write notes and shit. So now that they're a little bit older, I'm trying to get better at that. We'll see.
At least you're getting a little bit better as far as getting around to exercising and all that nowadays. So
yeah, I've lost 12 pounds since the start of the year. I'm in better shape. This guy I keep forgetting which way to point. this guy over here started drinking booze again. So
well, that's just the 4 times now I was on vacation, and I haven't drank since. So
whatever.
I only still have this. So
this is and this is funny because Jason doesn't even know about this. This is my first sugary soda that I've had in about 3.5 months. It's taken me 2 days to finish it. And because I've been such a health nut, first of all, why are we even prolonging this and not ending the show right now?
Yeah.
But as I've been drinking this, I have been feeling guilty with every sip.
You know, before we sign off here, I kind of want to end it on this. I was the same way, just like you yesterday, when I went down to Des Moines here, that I was with my dad, or he was with me, and on the way home filling up with gas, he asked me if I wanted anything, and I was kind of begrudgingly thinking about it, so it's like I'll just go with the Pepsi and all that stuff. And he gave me like the Pepsi bottle with the real sugar, and I didn't realize this, and I took a look at the amount of sugar on the back. I kid you not, 132%. I was like, what the fuck is this? It's like I don't even remember the amount of sugar. It's like real sugar. And I was like, I don't remember anything like in my entire life seeing that amount of sugar just in like just a regular individual bottle worth of soda.
Okay. Again, we should be ending the show, but we're going to keep going here. Okay. So I'm 40 years old, and I've done research where I was like, okay, for someone my age with, I'm 5'11", I weigh like around 168 pounds. I'm like, okay, for someone my age and kind of with my physical stature, about how much sugar at max should I consume a day? And it was saying no more than 40 grams of sugar for someone my age and all that per day. This can of Coke Orange has 39 grams of sugar. And according to this, and I don't know what statistics they're basing this off of, it says 78% of your daily value. For someone like me, that's like 99% of my daily value. Like I said, what they're basing this off of, I don't know. And I drank this thing over a period of 2 days because I'm like, I'm not drinking a full day's worth of sugar in one can, in one sitting. I said, I'm going to split this damn thing up. 130 some odd percent?
Yeah.
Like, how many actual grams of sugar did it have?
I don't know. I would have to check, and I'll let you know by text after.
It had to have been. This is 78, and you're talking 130 something. It had to have been something like, let's see, it had to have been like 70 some odd grams of sugar.
I don't know. I'll have to look. And then the other thing too, I know we're prolonging this. Like recently, I've been kind of on the binge of not having to, like, trying to eliminate as much saturated fat in my diet and stuff, because like
he's fat.
still, yeah, and and speaking of that, one of the things I bought and kind of wish I didn't after is that, like, I was looking at it, it said 80% worth of saturated fat.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
Well, it's like one of those frozen family size dinners. Yeah.
Why'd you get a family size? It's just you that lives in that damn house.
Well, I tend to kind of keep leftovers and stuff, kind of prolonging it, but then it's like 80% worse.
Even if you okay, first and foremost, don't eat it all in one sitting.
No, I don't do that. No.
I don't know. Like, even then, even if you were to eat like a fraction of it, like once each day over however many days it takes to finish that, I still don't know if that's healthy enough. Like, maybe you need to take like a day off in between. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's just like these breakfast pizzas from this local place where our grandma lives. They sell them at the grocery stores and all that. And I kid you not, I looked at it, it said one slice was close to 40% worth.
That's the problem.
Saturated fat.
That's the problem with a lot of frozen stuff. There's usually high fat content just in general, and there's high sodium. Sodium for preservation. And like I'm trying to lower sodium intake as well. And it's like you stay away from frozen stuff. Like it's fine to have once in a while, but not frequently.
Yeah, and I've noticed that too recently when it comes to ice creams and stuff like that. It's like surprisingly there's a lot of saturated fat with ice creams.
Get the frozen yogurt. Frozen yogurt,
that
or you get lower sugar, lower fat, etc., lower calories, all that.
That or like sherbet or like fruit popsicles and all that.
Yeah. So this has been Go Healthy Bastard podcast.
Go Healthy Bastard.
All that health information and insight is free. Again, we do not charge a single penny nor ask for a single penny from you guys. So thank you so much for watching or listening. We will be back when we get the date.
It'll be at least a week after.
The 12th.
Yeah.
So we'll be back the 12th. I actually, by that point, will have seen Jurassic World Rebirth twice at that point because my son will not have seen it. They're gone, and I'll be seeing it the day that they come back. So it's like, no, I'm not waiting for you. I want to see this before you. So
I probably won't be able to see it until the 4th of July weekend, probably the 5th.
Yeah. So we should be good to go. I'm excited about it. Sadly, we've had a string of disappointments on this podcast. I'm hoping to break that. And just a reminder, a couple weeks after that, we will be doing the Three Treasures movie as well. And again, I'm hoping that it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hoping to try to get some of these episodes out as fast as I can. I just got other shit to do in the background.
Yep. So this has been Go Healthy Bastard. Thank you so much for watching and or listening.
We will.
What?
New T-shirt.
Go
Healthy Bastard.
Go Healthy Bastard. We'll be back. I guarantee you within a couple weeks. Jurassic World Rebirth. Gonna be a good show. I know it's gonna be a good movie. Looking forward to it. We'll catch everyone then.
All right. Well, see you guys next time.